Milo Talks presents The Greatest Party Ever. A short story from the van, written and read to you by Milo Stephens. Acknowledgement. Thank you for the cheerleaders and the supporters who not only listened, but encouraged my storytelling. Once upon a time, hey, this is my story, and I want to start it that way. Once upon a time, there was a pretty little fox named Tess. That's me, Tess. And no, really, I'm a fox. Well, maybe not the prettiest fox, but I'm not a bad-looking fox, as far as foxes go. I mean, my tail could be fuller, but that's not really my fault. I got my mom's tail. My legs could be longer, my left ear flops sometimes, but I am not a bad-looking fox. Anyway, once upon a time, I had a boyfriend named Hank. Hank is a self-centered, ego-driven Wolverine with a really nice snare, but that's not my point. My point is that he's a self-centered, ego-driven, frustrating creature who is currently grabbing a drink from the punch bowl at my forest party that I did not invite him to. Excuse me, I say as I slide behind him. What exactly are you doing? Hey, babe, he says with that crooked smile that shows me his super nice teeth, not the point. Don't call me babe, I say. What are you doing here? Well, I was in the area, he says, still smiling. Oh, I'm sorry, I say. Did you forget? We broke up. Well, I thought it'd be cool, he says smoothly. No, it's not, I say firmly. Oh, well, he says, smile fading. I really don't want you here. This is my party, I explain. Fine, he says. I'm gone. Good, I said. And with that, he flips his snarling grin towards the door and walks out. I'm feeling good in this moment. I mean, I can hardly believe how good it felt. You have to understand it took a great deal of work to finally shake that guy from my fur. I was head over tail for him. And then, well, that's another story. Let's just say in this moment, right now, this is going to be a great party. So speaking of this party, this is just a spur-of-the-moment thing. I mean, there is no real purpose to having it. Just wanted to get some of my closest friends together. I mean, my birthday is tomorrow, but I don't expect anyone to really know that. I guess when you get to a certain fox age, you stop celebrating, right? So it's just a party for the sake of having a party. Hey, Tess! I turn towards the voice. It's Claire, a snobby fox from the other side of the forest. I only invited her because we have been friends since birth, practically, and I pretty much have to invite her and her snobby little gang. They are pretty much a pack of mean foxes, but she is my friend, so here she is. Hi, Claire, I say, smiling. You need to do something about these crows, she says, swinging her tail around. I look over her shoulder to see what she could be talking about and see Jilly, Casey, and Sean jumping in a corner over something shiny. What are they doing, I ask. They are stealing keys. What? I say again. We talked about this. I begin to march towards that murderous group, and Jilly sees me come in and stashes whatever they've been bouncing over behind her wing. The troublesome threesome all look at me as I approach. Hey, Tess, says Jilly. Hey, Tess, says Casey. Hey, Tess, follows Sean. Great party, says Jilly. Great party, says Casey. Yeah, great party, follows Sean. What are you up to, I ask. Nothing, says Jilly. Nothing, says Casey. Yeah, nothing, says Sean. I look at each of them sternly. Why, says Jilly. Why, says Casey. Yeah, why, follows Sean. What have you got, Jilly? What? Where? She shrugs. As she does, a silver key drops to the ground. They all three stare down at it. Really, Jilly? We talked about this, I explain. I know, she flaps. Listen, you guys, leave the shiny stuff alone. There are drinks and snacks, and I even think the bunnies are playing some games in the other room. I should check on them. Anyway, my point is leave the shiny things alone. They don't belong to you. Where did you get that key? Drake, says Jilly. Drake, the badger? Go give it back right now. But it's such a shiny key, she pleads. Take it back. Oh, okay. And as I watch, Jilly picks up the key and the three crows begin to make their way back over to Drake and his badger brothers. And as they do so, I am thinking to myself, this is going to be a great party. Just then I am bumped from the back. Hey, I say, and turn to see Tony the ferret pushing one of my coffee tables into me. Oh, hey, sorry, Tess, he says. He continues to push the little wooden table past me. Tony, I say. Yeah, Tess. He stops and turns to look at me with his shiny black eyes. What you doing there with my table, buddy? I ask. This table here, he says. Yep, that table right there, Tony. What you doing with it? I ask again. I think it only fair to point out here that Tony has a very serious issue with rearranging space. He truly can hardly stand to be in your home or office and not see what he calls a more sensible alignment of your things. And sadly, this is not only his condition, but a condition shared by most black-footed ferrets. And as I look around, sure enough, Penny, Mark, Stacy, and Oscar are all beginning to move my furniture around the room. As they are doing this, they are pointing and discussing the best scenario. But as true to ferret form, none of them can agree at the right position that the couch should be or the direction the fern should face. I glance down at Tony, who is slowly backing away from me, all the while pushing the coffee table. We make eye contact, and he stops. I take a deep breath. Tony, I say. Tell your cousins to stop moving my things around. I know you all feel that my feng shui is off, but this is the way I like it. Got it? Got it, he says, but continues to push the coffee table in the wrong direction. Tony, I shout. Okay, he shouts back and jumps over the table and begins to push it back from where he got it. He shouts over his shoulders to the others. She says she likes it wrong, guys. With that, the ferrets all shake their heads and head over to get some punch. And I think to myself, this is going to be a great party. And just as I think that, something drops on my head. And I can tell from the smell right away what it is. I cautiously look up to see what I suspect is there. And sure enough, "Hi, Benny," I shout. From the darkness above me comes, "Hey, Tess." "Who else you got up there?" I ask as I step back towards the wall and away from the center of the room. "Oh, well, we got Louie and Steve and Andrew and Terrence." And after each name he calls out, it's followed with a hi, hello, even a how ya doing, which I believe came from Terrence. When he was done with the names and the last bat named, Rachel, which shouted, "Hello! I'm really glad you could make it, but do any of you happen to remember the bat rule?" In return, I was given some obvious shuffling around noises along with a cough or two. Finally, Benny shouts back, "Bats can hang outside, no inside hanging." Yeah. Now, I can tell he was disappointed. I am sure it was a lot of fun to be able to hang up there above everyone's heads, watching the activities, and I bet they know what the rabbits are doing. But as everyone knows, if you sit long enough under where bats hang, it's just a matter of time before bat poop lands right on your head. Or perhaps in your food or your drink. It's just gross, so the bat rule has two parts. Bats are invited to join the party, and they can crawl around with the rest of us on the floor. However, if they choose to hang around, they must go outside. There are perfect branches just for the bats right outside the burrow, but the bats prefer to watch us from the darkness above. Personally, I think they're up there mocking the rest of us, and I don't know why they even bother to come, but I invite Benny, and he never goes anywhere without his cousin. Sorry, Tess, came a chorus of voices, and in the next moment, the space above my head is filled with sounds of movement and the fluttering of bat wings. Most of them went right out the openings to the outside, but a few, including Benny, came down to join the party. "Nice to see you, Tess," Benny says. "Nice to see you, Benny," I laugh. "Thanks for coming to the party." "I heard there was going to be fruitcake," he says. "Who told you that?" I ask. "No one," he smiles, "just hoping." We both laugh. He starts to say something about the bunnies when something in the corner of my eye catches my attention, and I shout, "Glenn! Really?" Now, Glenn is a wonderfully kind chipmunk right around the corner from my burrow. We have been friends for years, but he does this one thing that is super duper annoying at parties. He looks up to see me coming and immediately drops the paw full of chips back into the bowl he was pulling them from. His paws were apparently bulging with them. And then he begins to brush the crumbs from his paws onto his white fur chest as I approach. I just stand in front of him staring in disbelief. I'm speechless, and I can see from his current condition he will need a minute to speak, because his cheeks are also bulging with chips. I tilt my head to one side and wait. Glenn rolls his eyes at me, and then he finally begins to chew the chips. I wait. He tries to speak. "Sorry" is barely audible through bits of chips. I wait. He chews, finally swallowing and smiling at me. "Sorry," I asked, tilting my head to the other side for effect. Plus, I was getting a crick holding it there for so long. "Yes, Tess, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it." And I ask, "What do you mean you didn't mean it? What part did you not mean, Glenn?" "Storing," Glenn says with a sigh. "Yes, Glenn, storing. Storing is fine when you're not at a party." "I know, Tess. Storing is not for parties. Parties are for eating and sharing. I just forget sometimes, and I really like your chips." "Yes, I can see that," I say, smiling, and hand him a bowl of chips. "Why don't you take this bowl, since you've already touched all the chips? But no more storing, just eating." Okay, Tess, just eating. He takes the bowl and walks over to a chair with it. As I turn to the cabinet and get another bowl of more chips, I think, this is going to be a great party. Just at that moment, I hear shouting, "Not my fault, you all smell like rodents." Hey, we are rodents. Better that skunk smell you're putting off. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Oh no, I say out loud. The Badger brothers were mouthing off to Claire and her equally annoying fox friends. And I can see other smaller animals backing away as if to give them space and allowing the anger to swell. If you kept that furball tail out of everyone's way, the older Badger brother was saying to Claire. She snarls and shouts, "Furball tail? I'll have you know I just untangled it today, but I can see from your fur trap of a body that you have been rolling in the briars. Oh, that's right," she continues. "You live there." I scrambled to get to them before the teeth and nails came out, but just then a large form pounces into the middle with its hackles standing, teeth baring. It's Hank! "Back down there, Badger," comes out almost as a hiss through his teeth. And then he quickly spins and looks directly at Claire and barks at her. "Do you really want to mat that fur of yours by tussling with the Badgers?" Claire sits back and rolls her eyes and says, "No, they're not even worth it." He turns back to the Badgers, who have also sunk back a bit and have lowered their hackles. "And you and your brothers, do you really want to continue?" They all grumble and say no. But it was clear, at this point, the fight was over. Slowly, everyone went back to talking and laughing as if nothing had happened. I sat as Hank makes his way over to me, grinning, but not in an annoying way. "Thanks," I say as he gets closer. I would say I could have handled it, but we both know it was better that he jumped in. "This is what I am good at. Maybe the only thing," he adds. He sits next to me and I nudge him a little with my body and say, "No, Hank, you are great at conflict resolution and timing." "And timing?" he asked. "Well, yeah, you proved to have perfect timing, the way you just showed up when the conflict was escalating." "Well," he says. "What?" I ask. "I may have never left." "You didn't?" I laugh. "But I kicked you out." "Yeah, but it's your birthday." "You remembered," I said, and was sincerely surprised. "Of course, Tess," he says. "Everyone here knows." "What do you think those bunnies have been doing in that back room this entire time?" "I've been trying to figure that out," I say, looking behind me to see if I can spot one of them. "Hold on," he says. "You'll see shortly." And as if on cue, sounds of voices singing start to come from the back room as the bunnies enter with a large wobbly plate of flowers and berries. "Happy birthday to you" is the song, and the entire room explodes into voices joining in on the singing as the bunnies make their way to me. I have a toothy smile when the room finishes, and in the distance I can hear the last few lines of the song coming through the opening of the burrow from the animals and bats that had been outside making their timing a little off. I laugh as they finish, and the room is filled with the shouts of happy birthday. The room turned quiet, which allowed me to thank them all for coming, and I looked down to see the beautiful arrangements that they had been building. "Thank you, Priscilla. This is just wonderful." Everyone who came brought a flower or berry from their neck of the woods. Putting it all together was easy, she says, batting her bunny eyes at me. "Thank you, everyone," I shouted and said, "Please continue to have a good time." And then I said to Tony the ferret, "If you want to rearrange, you go ahead. My burrow could use it." And looking over at Glenn the chipmunk, "Hey, you have all those chips you want, buddy. You got that?" He really couldn't respond because at that time, again, his cheeks were bulging. I bounded out the window and shouted at the bats, "Hey, if you guys want to hang outside, that's fine, but go ahead and come in if you want. Just be mindful of the poo, okay?" And before I could even get to them, the crows were behind me with something I'm sure they got off of someone else. I smiled and said, "Just make sure you return it." "Will do," says Casey. "Will do," said Sean. "This is a great party," says Jilly. I look around and smile, shaking my fur a bit and say, "Yes, it's the greatest party ever." Side note, it took 4 years to complete this short story. I had to be in the right place at the right time, I guess, to get the proper inspiration to finish it. It was like a puzzle that I could not solve. I say this to remind myself, pausing is not quitting. It's just pausing. So maybe it's time to unpause some of my other stories. Thank you for listening to Milo Talks. This has been a short story from the van. And until next time, be well, be kind, be thankful.